Hello ladies and gentlemen, this video will be about prophecies. I made astrological predictions about year 2026 and beyond, brief predictions. I actually already recorded a very long video on 2026 to 2030 and beyond, astrological predictions using the means of the ancient Babylonian astrology and the sidereal zodiac. While I was making these predictions, I was thinking of researching prophecies, especially prophecies which are not known to the Western world, to the English-speaking people. That's why I want to present to you very interesting prophecies made in Bulgarian, in my culture, by Master Beinsa Douno, and I will also say in the end 2-3 words on the prophecies made by Baba Vanga. I will speak about her too. So prophecies which actually have their astrological, of course, connection. So in this video, I will not really emphasize so much on my astrological findings in relation to these prophecies, but I will certainly do this in the next videos because it is just the beginning of the recordings for year 2026, horoscopes, predictions, and so. So I will be speaking a lot about the future, on the future from astrological perspectives, but let me share with you these prophecies, which are very, very interesting. So they come, first 2-3 words so that you know who is behind them. Master Beinsa Douno. He is phenomenon for the world, not only for my Bulgarian culture. He is born, of course, in Bulgaria, even very near me in Varna. But Master Beinsa Douno, before I tell you 2-3 words about, from his biography, so that you have idea about him, just to tell you what Einstein said. Literally, the whole world is admiring me. I admire Master Beinsa Douno, born in Bulgaria. So this is Beinsa Douno passed in, I think, 1944. Just to tell you. So Master Beinsa Douno, also Rudolf Steiner at that time. Rudolf Steiner, one of the students of Beinsa Douno at that time the school of Beinsa Douno was founded in 1922, and around that time, I think the story exists in English, maybe you can find it, but very briefly to tell you, one of the students of Beinsa Douno, one of the future students of Beinsa Douno, went to Austria to study with Rudolf Steiner, and Rudolf Steiner said to him, "What are you doing here? Do you know that there is the most amazing phenomenon, spiritual, esoteric teacher born in Bulgaria? Go back to Bulgaria and become part of the White Brotherhood of Master Beinsa Douno." So this is two great teachers at that time. This is what they said about Beinsa Douno. So the figure is phenomenon. In the spiritual life of Bulgaria at that time, and now for the whole world, it is known that there are communities, even in Africa, which dance the pan-eurythmic dances of Beinsa Douno, later on taken by Rudolf Steiner and called eurythmic dances. This is just our connection with the stars, the planets, and the nature. His knowledge is based on the words of Christ, and this, what he teaches actually, is esoteric Christianity. He was even disconnected. He was expelled by the church, which he found very funny at that time. So his activities with more than 40 years, during which he managed to introduce to tens of thousands of Bulgarians and people all over the world the secrets of the esoteric knowledge and connection with nature. He's one of those amazing divinities who actually are born every one time in a big human cycle. Like Master Beinsa Douno was born when to introduce us to the new era of Aquarius. And he gave to us, not only to us Bulgarians, to the whole world, he gave his formulas and prayers. He emphasizes on praying. Prayers are very important. He gives to us formulas and prayers so that we can go through this transition period with ease, in harmony, in balance, but always to stay, whatever happens, connected with God. So all his knowledge is based on the esoteric Christianity, which can be part of any belief system that you have. You may be a Muslim, you may be Buddhist, doesn't matter. This is not the church Christianity. We're speaking about esoteric Christianity. Remember, he was expelled from the church. Not that he had any desires to connect with the corrupted popes and whatever, you know. So he was the great musician. He left songs, music, panrhythmics, the music and the songs behind the panrhythmic dances are created by him. Great astrologer. I am planning to make series on the astrologer Beinsa Douno. Such beauty. This is esoteric astrology based on the Hermetism, the ancient astrology. Such beauty is this you cannot imagine. So he was an amazing astrologer. He was the one who said everyone should know astrology so that you can plan your incarnations. Can you imagine? Everyone should be an astrologer, he says. So he was, directions in his teaching was life in harmony with cosmic laws, with the hermetic principles, connection with the energies of nature, understanding and love for everyone, but not in this love, not in this way of not being, although how you say this in English, excuse me, political, but to love your neighbors, to connect with nature, and to be always connected with God. So he says that both predictions and things which are determined can change. Nothing is set on stone. Remember this. He made his predictions. He left us prophecies. But it all depends on us, on people, on the collective, on our feelings, emotions, and deeds. That's why we need to be very good people. We need to be very... we need not to have any evil, even a small note in ourselves, because he says he's predicting the wars. He predicted the Second World War, but all is due to our emotions. It is our deeds. So all of this can be, it's not set on stone. It can be prevented. So it is up to us, I quote, it's up to a person to improve or worsen their fate. This is, I want to start with this because some of his predictions are a little bit grim, but you need to understand we can change things. We are very, very powerful human beings. So he says, this is just to generalize so that you, what you hear, so that you don't feel really like that the things are really very negative. They are not. So he says, in the 22nd century, the kingdom of Christ will be restored on earth. So, we have to trust him, because Beinsa Douno was a being of a very high level of consciousness. And like I said, amazing artist with amazing intelligence, creativity, wisdom. He made prophecy about end of time and the coming of a new golden age of humanity. So what he says, literally, I'm quoting, during the passage of time, the consciousness of man traversed a very long period of obscurity. This phase, which the Hindus call Kali Yuga, is on the verge of ending. We know this astrologically. We find ourselves today at the frontier between the two epochs, the one of the Kali Yuga and the new one. So he came to help us to transition, to be able to reach balance and not to have very difficult times while passing from one epoch to another. Then let me tell you something very, very interesting. Actually, this is something that I previously read. Unfortunately, I cannot quote it because this text, for some reason, I didn't find, but I will remember it and I will try to speak out of memory. What he said. So he passed just before, you know what he said? He said, I'm leaving now. The communist came, I'm leaving now. And then he just left his body. And then he was, when they performed the funeral, he said, don't even search for me, you will not find me there. And he was not even found in the coffin. He just decided, and he left like one of those amazing phenomenal teachers in the world. So before he passed, before he decided to leave this reality, he said, now in the 90s you have a period of break, like a break, until year 2000. Then you have like a break. The times will not be very hard. But then after that, he said, after 2000, you will have a cycle of 40 years of very difficult for the whole world, very extreme difficulties. So speaking about cycles, let me tell you one thing. Now, there is a very well-known cycle of in astronomy, which is called Heil cycle, H-E-I-L cycle. So this is a cycle, strictly mathematical cycle, because, you know, astrology, astronomy, mathematics, it's all, these are exact sciences. This is a cosmic cycle. So this Heil cycle consists of 2 solar cycles of 11 years. Actually, about the solar cycles, I've been speaking a lot already since 2023, when I told you that the solar flares will start working such a way on us that they will have impact on markets, prices of gold, and many special spirits will descend on Earth. And this is also what Master Beinsa Douno says. When there are social flares with high intensity, like what we had from 2024 and on, and now even, many very special deities of very high consciousness, like people or deities who come as volunteers to help us. So such deities usually during such high level of intensity of the solar flares emphasize on one of those cycles, descend on, then such deities descend on Earth. So this was just felt like mentioning this fact to you. But in the meantime, to tell you, so this Heil cycle consists of 2 11-year cycles of the solar cycles. These are magnetic. These are 22 years exactly magnetic cycle. And you can research Heil cycle, nothing difficult to understand. But our lives are changing every time such cycle begins or ends. So what he says is, he's established his school of the White Brotherhood, Master Peter Douno and Beinsa Douno, because, okay, let me not interrupt this, later I'll tell you more, because I have so many things to say. So the opening of his school, the White Brotherhood School, he opened it in 1922. And he said, my school will last 22 years. So it happened because he passed. So then he says every 22 years, things will happen to humanity. So the next cycle after 1944 will last 44 years. And this is when you had the Second World War starting. So he says, when this first Heil cycle finishes, he says, I will step down from this chair, leave, and the religion of labor will come. So then this will last 44 years, 2 Geo cycles, each one 22 years. And then he said, after that, and we're speaking about the 90s, exactly what he said, the most terrible dictatorship will come. Because what they call now democracy is actually the worst form of dictatorship. Because I tell you, I lived through being Eastern European, I live on the Balkans, and I tell you, I experienced the communist, the socialist regime. And I remember the fall of this regime. And I tell you, now what they call democracy is the worst form of dictatorship, which you cannot even compare with the so-called dictatorship of the Communist Party, because it now is worse, really. So he said, after this 44 years, like 2 Geo cycles, form of dictatorship will come for most parts of the world. And you think in your culture what exactly happened after you have 1944, then count 44 years of 2 Geo cycles, and then after the religion of labor for most parts of the world, you have 44 years, and then terrible dictatorship. So this would be from 1944 to 88, 90s. Actually, when I told you when I was saying this quotation, now it makes sense. When I told you that in the years of 2000, we count 40 years, actually we have to count it differently. We have to count from, you have 1922 plus 44, plus 22 is 1944. Then you have 44 becomes 88. Then dictatorship comes. Then count another 2 cycles. And then I believe this will be, there will be important change. And then, so far, everything has been going flawlessly according to the heavenly plan, with the beginning of each solar magnetic cycle. The next one, according to this, following this pattern, was in 2010, and the upcoming one is in 2032. 22. So in 2032, we should finally be feeling better on Earth, with less dictatorship. This dictatorship is happening all over the world, but I will tell you about my astrological perspective in a separate video. So in 2032 is the end of a cycle and starting of a new Geo cycle. So in other, like I mentioned too, in other one of his other lectures I read that he was speaking about 2000 to 2040. We will check this, but if we really strictly base our research on the Geo cycles, which is very logical, and see also in your lives how these cycles influence your lives, your country, the politics of your continent or area, and you will see that all will make sense. Of course, here and there will be differences. Culturally, this is very normal. So, and let me tell you about this Geo cycle. Master Beinsa Douno speaks about the Geo cycles, and the astronomy, the science, found out about the Geo cycles of the sun 17 years after he mentioned it for the first time. Just to tell you this, he was an amazing astronomer and astrologer. So, after the finishing of this, 1922 plus 44, this Geo cycle, life will get worse and worse. I'm quoting here. It will become unbearable. For bad people, a black period is coming. The dark age is ending, because Kali Yuga is the dark age. We are finishing Kali Yuga here. We are now entering the age of Aquarius, which means purity. Do you know, he said that in the age of Aquarius, which we are entering, the ladies, only pure virgin ladies will be able to have children, because this is age of purity. The astral world has already been cleansed. The future culture is distinguished by three things: the elevation of women, the elevation of the poor and weak, and the advocacy of human rights. All prophets and sages will incarnate in the Slavic cultures by the end of the 20th century. There will be great bloodshed. In many countries there will be civil wars, but the one who is closer to God will pass more easily. Then the powers of heaven will be outraged. Great earthquakes will come. Where there is dry land, there will be sea. Those who are saved after these sufferings will enter the kingdom of God. The World War II will end, he predicted. Literally, I'm reading to you. But after this, another war will come, the Third World War, a bigger one in the distant future. Distant future for him is because he speaks in the 40s. If you do not learn to bear suffering, you will joy now in this, with joy now in this Third World War will be on the front line. You will be on the front lines, and no one will be able to save you people. I tell you to take measures, because the earth will undergo great change. The earth will undergo great change. If you do not believe, a day will come when you will test my words. The sun will begin to shine more brightly and melt the ice. Your houses will crack, the ice will melt, and you will look like you are sinking. You say, what fate has befallen us? This is not a fate at all, but the earth has changed its course. The sun's rays fall at the right angle and melt the ice. You live on the ice sea. If you are late in changing your life, you will soon mark your properties on the bottom of the sea. Now I say to you too, if you do not straighten your life, this awaits you. It means we can change everything. We can. When we are good, decent people, we can change everything. So I repeat, now I say to you too, if you do not straighten your life, this awaits you too. This is not a threat, he says. This is the natural state of life. The great wave that is coming into the world now is breaking the ice and turning into water. You ask, what will happen to us in the future? Imagine that you live at the North Pole, where everything is covered in ice. Your houses are made of ice. You can't see any water anywhere. If someone comes and tells you that you have to change your life, that you have to build boats to swim in, you will object, that you don't believe it, and that you cannot change the life that your ancestors and great-great-grandfathers led. I tell you to take actions, because the earth will undergo a great change. If you don't believe me, the day will come when you test my words. Repetition. The sun will begin to shine brighter. This you say, what has happened to us? And again he repeats in many of his lectures that we have to change. Everything is in our hands. And he said the good people who rely on God, on the Creator, will not suffer. This is because the earth is changing. Then the countries, says the master Beinsa Douno, are favorites in parts. Sooner or later, America and Russia will join hands. We see this will happen now. They will give away, they will reach a situation that they will call the idea of God. They will unite in the name of truth. Russia will give the new ideas, the new humanity. America will give the material. America has a credit for 100 years. He said this 100 years ago. America has the credit for another 100 years. Yes, America is given 100 years from above to be strong over all nations. They are assigned tasks from above to be leader, to fulfill tasks. Now it is preparing for the future racial war. It has actually begun, but in this 100-year period, humanity will thin out from these racial wars and from these natural disasters. 2/3 of humanity will live. 1/3 will remain until 2040. The earth is moving more and more towards a higher sphere. So you see, in the 40s, America was given 100 years of leadership power over the entire world. And this is finishing now. And astrologically, we know this is now America has Pluto return. This Pluto return is completely changing the states. Last year I made video on this, and America will not be leader of the world anymore. He says this, when 100 years are over, finish, America will not be the leader of the world. Christ, then therefore, Douno says, Christ came, but what did he arrange? Oh, as people understand the arrangement of things, he arranged nothing. From our perspective, because we always want to see the material results. He came and the Roman Empire crucified him. Then Christ came in 1914. We understand he means symbolically coming through us. He told them, do not fight, and they didn't listen to him. He will come in the next war. He meant the Second World War. People are preparing now, and if a war breaks out, about 50 million people will die. Again, speaking about the Second World War. If they do not get wiser, then a new war will break out. And he speaks now about the Third World War, which is about to break. I repeat, if they do not get wiser, then with the outbreak of the Second World War, a new world war will break out, even more fierce, in which 550 million people will die. I do not want this, he says, but I say that human thoughts, feelings, and actions determine this war, the Second World War, in which about 50 million people will die. He speaks still about the Second World War. And if 50 million people will die in the Second World War, if we don't change, he says, then in the Third World War, 550 million people will die. If they do not get wiser, then a more terrible war will come, the Third World War, he says. After it, they will no longer fight, because such a miracle will happen that people have never expected. Then all communications, railways, telegraphs, telephones will be cut off, and it will be at least 100 years before the relations of the people will be with one another can be restored. By the time they will be completely isolated, the entire present culture as we know it will disappear. If some people today knew this, they would set the earth on fire without thinking much of it. No materialism will not bring anything to the world. When a culture loses the idealism and becomes materialistic, it is doomed to death. When religion loses the idealism and becomes materialistic, it is doomed to that. He was very much against religions, very connected to nature, of course vegetarian and so. If modern people do not give up their greed, if they do not correctly resolve the difficulties and contradictions of their lives, and do not fulfill the will of God, they will go through great trials and suffering. And this is about our times now, our times now. So these are the main predictions of Beinsa Douno. Of course, he speaks specifically which countries may go underwater and so. May, I say. Remember, he said every prediction can be changed. So let me now finish with what Baba Vanga said. Maybe brief story. Baba Vanga, I think she died in 1996. She was very known, a prophet. She was blind. Many people, there were always queues in front of her house. People wanted always to get her predictions, healing. She was really amazing, totally blind, and she would be moving everywhere without even need of a stick. So Baba Vanga, the Bulgarian prophet, she also was used a lot by the governments, also the governments of the Soviet Union at that time. I will tell you, my grandfather, when he was sick and was, shortly after they visited her, he passed. But it was very interesting because my grandmother and my grandfather went to her. And what she always would do when somebody was about to pass and then she wouldn't be able to do anything, she would say, "Oh, you are well, you will live, you will live, you will improve," because she didn't want really to break people's hearts. But then she would say, "Next time when you come, bring me a pot with the flower, a pot with the soil and the flower in it, and then you know that this person would pass." And indeed, when they went to her, she made many predictions. She didn't tell him that he would pass, but she said, "Bring me soil, pot with soil and flower." And then briefly after that, he passed. So she was really one of the most powerful prophets we had. So let me tell you what she said. Whoever steals, about theft, will cry for health. Sometimes I'm very nervous, she says, and people think I'm bad. And I see the surroundings and the ring that is gradually narrowing around the earth. I experience the suffering of all people, and I do not dare to explain it, because a very strict voice constantly warns me not to try to explain anything, because people deserve the life they lead. How can I help these people who increasingly do not respect anyone, compete to acquire money and things, do not ask for much? You cannot pay the price for it. Do not ask for much. You cannot pay the price for it, she says. There is no cunning person, even the greatest, who has outwitted his fate. He will be cunning as much as God has given him, and then he has no right to leniency. Let everyone know that nothing remains unpaid in this world. Let everyone know that nothing remains unpaid in this world. People commit crimes and think that no one has seen them. It is not so. Everything is visible, and the time comes when the guilty must pay. Work in the morning and during the day, never in the evening. the powers from above do not help in the evening, and without their help, nothing great can be born. She also speaks that we have to pray, that prayers are very powerful, and also that when people become very materialistic and when they destroy their families. So she says, see how happy and real families you have when you are not very wealthy and very materialistic. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this was interesting, but again, I want to conclude and emphasize that we can change everything. See, he was speaking before the beginning of the Second World War. He was speaking about the Third World War and saying that we can avoid it. So be good, be decent, respect, and love each other, and connect with God and pray. All the best for you. Bye-bye.